Have you ever wondered what it's like to be a correctional officer? Being a correctional officer in the state of Texas is one of the most underrated jobs there is. Today I'm wanting to talk to you about the training academy, the on-the-job training, and then the moving on to your unit. So, the training academy is roughly about 240 hours of in-class training. With that comes lots of bookwork, tests weekly, daily physical activity so that you can pass a physical test that you take every 2 weeks until the training is done. You go on unit tours, but you don't get to do anything. You just walk around the units. They teach you how the offenders move, how they handle situations, the defensive training so that you can defend yourself and other officers, because a lot of inmates are staff assaultive and inmate assaultive, and you're kind of that buffer for those that are getting assaulted. You have to kind of put yourself in there so that you can help protect who's getting assaulted. With the academy, the sergeants there, they're not the nicest, but they kind of have to be rough on you so that you get the point that it's not a game. With the on-the-job training, you move to that after the academy, after you graduate the academy. And with the on-the-job training, you are 4 weeks with a field training officer, learning more bookworks and more about the gangs and more about how the inmates run and the policies. And then you go to about 4 weeks of shadowing. So that's 2 more months of on-the-job training. With the shadowing, you're with another officer. You are learning how to run the dorms and learning how the unit runs. And then you're released to run the unit by yourself. Not really the unit, but you're released to be by yourself. With that, you're controlling the dorms. With the dorms, there is about 1 officer to 64 inmates with lots of mass movement because they're constantly in and out. They have education and chow and infirmary and other appointments that they get lay-ins for so that they can be seen for things. You're learning how to control the high security areas, and it's a learn as you go. I'm still learning. I've been there 2 years and I'm still learning different tricks and things that the inmates like to pull. The high security areas, you have about, depending on where you are, 1 officer to about 40 inmates. With this, you have a lot to watch for. There's a lot of trafficking and trading. There's a lot of fights that can possibly start, and you have to be on your toes. Being a correctional officer, you also work long hours. My unit is an 8-hour unit. Now, because we are so understaffed, just about every officer works 16 hours. And if we're not at 16 hours, we're working 12 hours. Because we don't have enough staff to man the unit. And we're trying to keep from having to lock it down. Because on top of that, there's units that are shorter staffed than we are. And because of that, we have to send officers to different units to help out there as well. So, being a correctional officer, that's pretty much all you can do. Work and home. Because the hours are so long, you're exhausted. So, with all of that being said, the academy, 240 hours or 6 weeks of in-class training so that you can become a correctional officer. On-the-job training is 4 weeks with a field training officer, which is more book work and more policy work and learning more about gangs and more about the inmates and how units are run. And then you have the shadowing, which is teaching you how to run the dorms and run the high security areas and learn more about the policies and more about how the units are supposed to run. And then you have going to your unit. And going to your unit, that's when you really learn how to be a correctional officer and really learn how to handle things, because that's when you're dealt in your face with the fights and the constant suicide attempts, or what they want you to think is a suicide attempt because they just want to move to a different cell. The staff assaults, the questions, a lot of them need help. You have to be a counselor too. So with that, this is a tough job, and this job is not for everybody. And it takes a strong person to be a correctional officer. So if you've ever wondered what it was like, or a correctional officer, you should probably thank them, because we're tired. And we work very hard to make sure that we keep our units safe and the communities around us safe.